Hello there, friends. Today's March 20th, 2024, and today we're going to take a look at this CJ Stroud rookie card and establish what I think it's worth in a raw state, a PSA 9 grade, as well as a PSA 10 grade. It's the 2023 Panini Prizm CJ Stroud card number 339. It's the base set card. As you can see, we've got a raw grade, that PSA 9 and the PSA 10 to discuss, and we're going to do that by establishing what I think it's worth, fair market value, what I would be offering for it, as well as what I'm asking for it if I'm selling it from my personal collection. But let's take a look at the graph here first. On the right-hand side, we do have our 15 recent comps. All of these are coming from eBay auction sales that have completed recently. I only do auctions, no buy it now, no best offer, because I like to see the bidding process happen to establish that supply and demand. Now, all of these cards, with the exception of this one, 219, which I'm going to adjust right now because that is absolutely incorrect. Oop, right here. Don't mind me, just a little maintenance here. There we are. All right, anyways, all of these have happened within a very strict time frame of the past 2 days. So there's a ton of volume with these cards out there, enough so much that this graph, while it looks cool and looks like you could come to some conclusions about it, yes, if this happened over the course of months where you saw this ebb and this flow, these peaks and these valleys, then there would be a story to be had with this graph. But there's not really, because it happened over 2 days. You can't really extrapolate trends over 2 days. But 1550 we can say is our low, 3450 is our high. We're right a little bit over that 100% swing from low to high, and that tells us that there's a potential to make some money on this card, but there's also a chance that there are some pretty bad cards out there. So when we talk about the numbers and what I think these cards are worth, I want you to take into consideration that I do my shopping in person. I like to go to card shows. I like to go to card shops so that I can see what the card looks like in person. Make sure it's got sharp edges, make sure it's got the corners are good, make sure that the surface is clean and scratch free. Down below here we do have all of the meat and potatoes. These are the most important numbers that we'll find. First top right corner for this video, very important, PSA submissions. So 3,058 have been submitted, 1,394 have come back at a PSA 10 grade. That's a 45.59% return rate for a PSA 10, which is pretty crazy. We're talking basically a coin flip to get a PSA 10. Interesting, right? So that's why I personally have a bit of interest in what's going on with this card in various grades. As far as this graph is concerned, this blue number represents the average bid price that it took in order to win one of these cards on auction through eBay. That comes to $25.24. Next to it, $3.96 is the average shipping price that it required to have it shipped to your door. That means $29.20 is your all-in, out-the-door price to have it mailed to you. These numbers are not what I consider to be fair market value because they don't take into consideration the 13 to 15% in fees that sellers must pay right off the top. So that with that taken off the top, sellers on average are taking home $21.60 if we take the fees off of this blue number. This orange number is what I think fair market value is for the card because it's what sellers are willing to let it go for. Now, as far as what I'm willing to buy it for, I like to get in a little lower, and I like to do my stoplight operation here. First, second, third offer, green, yellow, red. First offer, the green, is a 70% price point of the color blue over here. So 70% of $25.24 is $17.67. That is my first offer. Second offer is a 75% offer at $18.93. And final offer is an 80% offer at $20.19. I don't always strictly go by these numbers. I do really prefer to make sure that I'm getting in the bottom third of sales. So we're going to sort this ascending and drop down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $19.65 is going to get me into the bottom third of sales. This falls right between my second and final offers, so it becomes my new final offer, if that makes sense. I'm not going to be going up to that 80% price point. $19.65 is now my final offer. If I can find it, great. But there's plenty of cards out there on the market right now. I don't feel like I need to go any higher than that, especially if I'm shopping in person. Now, down below, if we wanted to sell in the top third of sales, which is generally what I use as a marker, I go down to the bottom and I go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $23.99 would get me in the top third of sales, which would net me a little over $4 in profit. That also equates over here in this blue cell right here, or what was once a blue cell here. Let's see here. Redo sort. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over here, $28 amounts to the buy it now or first minimum bid that I would have on eBay to make that same amount of money. All right, now, pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward. $21.60 is fair market value. I personally value it at about $19.65, and I'm going to be asking $24 even on it. Next up, let's take a look at the PSA 9. A much more consistent graph here. We're seeing $31.99 as your low, $42.85 as your high. Way less than that 100% swing. We're closer to that 50% swing. In fact, less than that. And that's what happens when you get a grade. There are a lot fewer variations, so people aren't necessarily saying, that one's got the perfect corners. That one's got the great edges. This is going to be the PSA 10. Nope, you got a grade on it already. You know what it's worth, and now that market gets tighter with less variation. There still, though, is an opportunity to make a few dollars. Down below, on average, $36.70 is going to be your average bid price. $31.53 is average take home for sellers. $25.69 is going to be first offer. And let's see if the bottom third falls within my stoplight here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $29.20. So that is actually going to be right below that 80% price point. So for me, I'm willing to go up to $29.20 as a final offer if I'm looking to get my hands on this card. Now this number, in particular this orange number right now, is a very interesting number because it means that most people have lost money by getting their card graded, okay? If raw state is $21.60, getting a PSA 9 grade on it only gets you a $11 increase in price point, but you're spending what, between $15 and $40 to get it graded, depending upon how fast your turnaround is or the volume of the cards that you're putting out there. So that means that people are losing money on this PSA 9 by getting it graded. Is that okay? Well, it depends upon what the PSA 10 is grading out, because like I said, there's a 50% chance basically of getting a PSA 10 grade. So let's take a look and see if that PSA 10 value makes getting it graded worth it. As we can see, again, a very, very tight graph. Not going to be a whole lot of wiggle room. I'm going to bet that we're going to be very close to fair market value for even any potential to get this card in hand. On average, bid price is going to be $141.42. Let's see here. We're going to have seller take home of $122.39. First offer, if you can get it at 70%, is $99. And let's see what gets us into the bottom third of sales. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $120.59. As I said, that graph is so tight that you're going to have to go above this 80% price point in order to get your hands on it. That for me means that I'm probably not in on this card right now. Unless I can get a really nice value on it. I'm sure there are some people out there in some card shows that are willing to work with you or trade. But I'm not going to be spending, honestly, personally, anything over $100 on this card. I got to get a good value on it. There's going to be a lot of them on the market, especially at this return rate. And there's got to be some wiggle room for me. So I'm not in on it. If you're on the top third of sales, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $124.19. So going from bottom third to top third, you're going to net yourself maybe $4, and that's when you're tying up over $100 in actual in money that you could be using elsewhere. I would rather get my hands on the raw card, truthfully, of these three options. if I'm looking to swing some trades. PSA 9, if I'm looking to buy it outright, sure, I might consider that as well if I can find myself a good deal. And then that PSA 10, I'm staying far away from. In fact, these numbers, now that we go back to what I was considering before, means that even with that 50% potential of not getting it right, let's say you send 2 cards in, right? One of them comes back as a 9, the other one comes back as a PSA 10. So raw on average, let's call it $44. Let's say you're spending $60 to get both of them graded, and that's at the very least, right? So we're up to $104. It might be worth getting it graded, but I doubt it. It's really not worth the energy and the effort to have that money all tied up for, say, 2-3 months, because you're not getting expedited shipping or expedited grading at that point either. So for me, this card is not worth grading. I would rather just have it in a raw state, or buy that PSA 9 that somebody's already graded for me and I get at a discount. Yep. So that's what I value these cards to be at. Let me know what you think about them and which one you would rather have, the raw, the PSA 9, or the PSA 10 right now. Of course, everybody wants that perfect card, but as far as getting value or bang for your buck, I'm thinking the PSA 10 might not be it. Take care, friends.